The blobfish might be the subject of cruel internet memes for many a year, but that digital ridicule may be unduly bestowed upon our deep-sea friend. He may look goofy, but that's just because he's far outside his natural habitat. Living at the bottom of the ocean, the blobfish actually has a pretty remarkable way of keeping it all together here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, search Cassie Michelle on YouTube. And today we're talking about a waterlogged football with eyes and a taste for shrimp, but more on that later.
A waterlogged football. I kind of think of it as like a wet Publix bag full of pudding. Yeah.
Yeah. Loose pudding.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely not like pudding cups. No, that's too much definition. There'd be angles. No, just, yes, loose dumped pudding and maybe a little bit of yogurt thrown in there for a little bit of texture.
A little tang.
Mm-hmm. But what are we talking about? A Publix bag?
We're talking about the blobfish, aka this. I guess you'll do the AKAs. I'll leave that to you.
Yes, aka the grumpity grumpfish, the pout pout fish with a pout pout face. It's a popular little kids book that I'm becoming more and more familiar with with every passing day. Also, we call it salty Squidward. And the compression confession session. I must confess that we are compressed.
You could have also called it. You could have, with this episode, could be called the Ballad of Rocky Blobby.
Rocky Blobby. Why Rocky?
It has some texture.
That Ricky Blobby?
Well, we'll talk about its rockedness later.
I thought about calling it Blob's Burgers, but I couldn't find anything really to make that
Blobby Hill
work. Blobby Hill. Blobby Fisher? Huh? Checkmate. Anyway. Blobbert. Yes, Blobbert. That's what I'm going to call it going forward, is Blobbert. All right, taxonomize this, Captain.
Okie dokie.
Taxonomize Blobbert for us.
It's in the kingdom we know, love, and are in. The kingdom Animalia. It's in the phylum Chordata. It's in the class Actinopterygii. Those are spined things and bony fish, respectively. Contentious. Order. Scorpioniformes? Yeah.
That works for me.
Scorpioniformes? Scorpioniformes. The family is Psych Rollatidae. Or Rollatidae. Psych Rollatidae.
Psychrolutidae.
That's psychic fish. Psychic water types.
It's we want to roll that film of the popular hit TV show Psych.
Yes.
Today.
And it's in the genus Psychrolatus. or Psychrolutes.
Ew.
And then the species is Marketus. Psychrolatus marketus.
Probably a soft C there.
Marcetus. That's fair.
Marcetus? Psychrolatus marcetus.
Interessante.
But since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show. Critter Groups isn't going to work. It's time for nitty-gritty nomenclature. Because Critter Groups isn't going to work because we're dealing with a fish again. So it's time to dig into the etymology of some of these ridiculous long words that we're forced to say because we put the word taxonomy into the name of this show. So, psychrolutes comes from the Greek word psychroluteo, which means, Joe, A, to swim a long distance, B, to have a cold bath, C, to find a valuable treasure, or D, to lose your sanity.
Run that by me again.
Psychroluteo, the Greek, does it mean to swim a long distance, to have a cold bath, to find a valuable treasure, or to lose your sanity?
I'm going to go with lose your sanity based on A, the word psych, and then B, the Greek myth of Psyche.
Okay. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Incorrect.
Is it swim a long distance?
It is have a cold bath.
Wow.
It means to have a cold bath.
What is the psych part of that?
I was trying to figure that out myself, but I did throw the sanity thing in there because I made sense. That's what I would pick. But yeah. So just in case you thought you knew Greek, you don't, unless you're Greek. And then you probably know Greek. Or in seminary. Then you have to know
Then
Greek.
you know Koine Greek, which is...
Then you know ancient Greek.
Which is useful for reading the Bible only.
But yeah, that's it. And the term of venery is, of course, a school. Even though they don't really hang out next to each other all that much.
Right. Are you ready to have this described?
I am.
So, the blobfish is a blob. If you look at pictures of this, it looks exactly like every politician you don't like.
It's a caricature for every politician you don't like.
Yeah, there's a lot of, the blobfish totally looks like this president and this senator that I don't like. Because it's ugly, and people I don't like are ugly.
That is true.
But
everyone you don't like is automatically ugly.
It also looks like a ditto that's fallen on hard times.
It looks like a very sad, lip-filled ditto. It's a ditto with lips.
And a Squidward nose. But they, in terms of fin structure, if it's not just a pile of nasty mucus, then it's kind of got a sea bass structure. I don't know where. Like I've seen a diagram of like they have dorsal fins, but then all of these pictures, it's just they do not. They've got a smooth back. But anyway, they have a fin profile similar to a sea bass, though it's more rounded. Their dorsal fins run the length of their backs if they're there. And then they have palm-shaped tail fins. And then they also have a broad elephant ear style pectoral fin. Unlike a sea bass, though, they have a large dome or bell-shaped bulbous head with a large mouth that's positioned toward the bottom of their face. And if you look up pictures, it's got a big old pair of lips on that.
Yep.
I have a pop filter, but yeah, okay. I was really leading into the pops.
Pair of lips.
They also have large-ish eyes. And then they come in paler colors like an ashy gray or a pale pink.
Pale pink pair of lips.
Yeah. So it's got the name, the accolade of being the world's ugliest fish. But I don't understand even these like disgusting pictures where it looks like a a mound of mucus. I think that's even more endearing than like the angler fish.
Yep. I would agree. Or the oarfish.
Yeah.
Or like the cookie cutter goblin shark.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely it's not appealing, but it has way more human characteristics that I can relate to.
It looks more like a cartoon than it does a monster from the deep.
Yeah, it looks like melty Squidward.
I mean, people love this thing. They're putting it on cupcakes. There's plushies of it. There's a horrifying like full like a kind of like a morph suit head mask that's just awful to behold.
Oh, I want to see this. Blobfish head suit?
It's like not like a cartoonized version either. Looks like an image that's been stretched over the mask that would fit over a human's face. Just a JPEG.
I don't see this, but I'm not sure that I want to. The more I think about it,
it looks like if Slender Man like drew some like Joker lips on himself.
I found slippers and a T-shirt with the many emotions of the blobfish.
Is it like all of the same?
Yeah, of course it is. Oh, that's not good. Oh, what you've sent me is not a good thing. Oh my, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like in the second Pirates of the Caribbean when the Kraken sucks that guy's face off, but managed to leave a face wide smile carved into the bottom part. I
don't remember this at all, but would you like to know the relative size of this thing?
Sure, I can't get this what you've sent me out of my brain.
Well, that brings us to the Measure Up segment. Welcome to the beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show, or the official favorite part of the show of our listeners. The official. The part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words Measure Up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We do have a new Measure Up intro this week.
Yes.
From Nora. She sent us some of the recommendations. She recommended she recommended something we'd already done, but then she said that she used to have a hedgehog, so then we did the hedgehog. And then you mentioned in that episode that you knew people with either hedgehogs or other animals that would keep it in their clothes.
Sugar gliders.
Yeah. And she emailed saying she was definitely one of those people that kept small animals in her clothes. She says she also owns rats now, and they're way smarter than hedgehogs.
People give them credit for.
Well, yeah. No, I feel like they're pretty well known as smart little rodents.
Are they?
Yeah.
I never really associated them with intelligence. Never really thought about it.
Well, that's why they're so helpful in certain studies, I guess.
I thought it was always just because they have they react to things, chemicals and things a lot very similar to humans.
Probably that too. But a lot of times, like, they study them as like a microcosm of like psychology, like
populations and stuff.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
Measure Up.
Now there's a popping P.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a Measure Up intro that really pops.
Yeah, no pop filter needed.
No, you do need a pop filter for pops. And I have one.
Yeah, I got one too. It's so much better than the way things used to be with all the...
Now I can say...
But thank you, Nora.
Yeah, now we can just play Nora's intro right into the mic, and it's fine.
Now I can say things like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers without having to worry about getting air all over my mic.
Yep. All right. Let's talk length. They're about 30 cent. Well, I read that they are never. They're not quite 12 inches. So thanks for telling me what they're not. They average less than 12 inches. So we'll say that 30 centimeters to 12 or 12 inches is the upper end of average. How many blobfish would it take to get from New Zealand's South Islands to the Antipodes Islands? South Island, sorry. Those are capital S, capital I.
I knew the first thing.
Antipodes are
not the second.
The Antipodes
thing.
Islands are islands in New Zealand.
Oh, okay. Because those could be like in the Mediterranean. It would take that's a long distance. Okay.
Here's a hint. New Zealand is made up of more than 700 islands.
I didn't know that. I knew it was more than just the two, but
yeah.
And Japan has a bunch of islands. You think it's just the 4 or 5 big ones, but nope. Got lots of little ones, which the United States found out pretty early on during World War II. Like, man, there's a lot of islands here. I didn't realize. I thought there was just the 4.
Well, Japan was also waging a campaign to take all of the islands of the Pacific.
Yeah, they were taking over a lot of islands in the South Pacific too. Anywho, I don't know. I'm gonna say these islands are 100 miles off the coast of the South Island. That would be like the distance. No, that's too much. Because I'm pretty sure Cuba is 100 miles away from Key West. Or 90 miles. It's either... 90 miles is either the distance between Key West and Cuba or Fort Lauderdale and the Bahamas. One of those two distances. The point is, it's not that far.
Bahamas, I think, are way closer
than that. Okay, I must be thinking of the distance between Florida and Cuba. So I'll say probably like, I don't know, 50 miles, which 50 times 5,280 equals 264,000 blobfish.
Huh. And you went with how many miles?
50 miles.
Oh, okay. The correct answer is 1,848,000 blobfish.
It's pretty far.
The Antipodes Islands are 350 miles from South Island.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty. They have some pretty far-flung islands in New Zealand.
Good for them.
They do, yeah. It's good for them. Yeah, it is good for them. Let's talk depth. They live between 600 and 1,200 meters, or 2,000 and 3,900 feet. I almost said 2,000 again. So we're going to go with 1,200 meters to 3,900 feet. How many blobfish living depths go into the length of New Zealand along the northeast axis?
What?
How long is New Zealand? The two islands that make up the main part of New Zealand.
Okay. Well, how long did it take Frodo to take the whole journey?
3 movies.
It took him a while.
But he had obstacles.
Yeah, mountains, ghosts, roast chicken. I don't know. I'm going to say...
Would you like to have a hint?
Sure.
New Zealand is a long, narrow country with 2 main islands. South Island has a spine of snow-capped Alps that we've come to know and love in The Lord of the Rings.
I'm going to say 1,000 miles.
You would walk 1,000 miles if you could just throw the ring away tonight.
La da 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 da. That was my favorite score in the movie.
I loved when Enya did that.
I can't imagine Enya singing that song.
It's too fast.
It's way too fast for her. All right. Yeah, so you said 3,900 feet, upper end of average, for the depth. We'll say 4,000 just to make it easier. It's 4/5 of a mile-ish. Oh, I'm not even gonna try to do math here. I'm gonna say 1,300 blobfish depths go into the length of New Zealand.
Final answer?
Yep, because don't make me say it again.
The correct answer is 1,346 blobfish.
No
depths.
Way.
Wow,
That was close.
New Zealand is 1,600 kilometers or 990 miles long.
Wow, I was 10 miles off. Oh my goodness. I have a map of the world on my wall, and I know that Florida is like about 400 miles from stem to stern.
Yeah, but the proportions on a map are all wrong.
I know, but that's all I had to go on, and I was like, it looks like I could lay in New Zealand from like Miami to Charleston. That's probably about 1,000 miles. So yeah, I'm very proud. That was awesome.
Once again, the information you had going in was just dubious, and you got there.
Still, yeah, those are the best ones, really.
All right,
dark and sinister man, have at thee.
Let's talk fast facts.
Yes.
The blobfish troll the bottom of the ocean's desolate rocky plains around the waters of Australia, New Zealand, and Tasmania. The blobfish has the unique hunting style of sitting motionless while thinking about nothing at all. They're covered
Which is what fish do.
They're covered in little protrusions that make them look like a coral or rocks, and they just wait around pondering the same inquiries that a rock might. Rocky.
I see.
Blobby.
Rocky Blobby.
And just when the blobfish is about to forget its own existence to join the great multitude of ocean detritus, a piece of edible matter, usually in the form of a crustacean, saunters past its face and gets eaten. That's right. Their hunting style is literally just sit and wait, and sometimes something comes in front of them and they eat it.
With a semi-open mouth.
They yoink it into their gullets. Another event that may disturb the blobfish's dissociation might be an ocean trawling fishing vessel that catches the blobfish by mistake, though the acidic nature of blobfish flesh makes it unwanted bycatch for fishermen. So you can't eat blobfish, unfortunately. You can't slurp that up like some viscous yogurt.
It really does look like you could just stick a straw in it, though.
Yeah, but who would want to?
I don't know.
The blobfish is thrown back, but not before the harsh lack of pressure or of the surface turns them into that coveted ocean detritus. Now all that's left is to sink to the seafloor to feed the kin of the crabs the blobfish once zealously gobbled up.
That is so poetic.
This whole thing was a little bit poetic, and I couldn't read today, so I ruined it a lot of the time.
It's the great circle of life, made possible by trolling fishermen.
Yeah. That's all I got for fast facts.
All right, well then it's time for the major fact, which I'm calling false frumps. I mean, we've been talking a lot about what this looks like. If you spend any time on the internet, you have probably seen a picture of the blobfish, and some of the merchandise that is etched into my brain now forever. And lots of magazines and newspapers and Good Mythical Morning themselves called this the ugliest animal ever. But we don't have a lot of pictures or videos of the blobfish in its natural state. Most of the pictures are going to be of it up here on the surface. This is because it lives really far down. like we said, 4,000 feet below the surface. It's a lot of Empire State Buildings. And the pressure down there is 120 atmospheres, or 120 times greater than it is here, or at sea level at least. Which means that not a lot can survive down there, and special adaptations need to be present in order to survive. And like you said, we usually only see blobfish when they are caught in deep sea trolling nets and are brought to the surface. And going from 120 atmospheres to 1 atmosphere does things to a living thing. What kind of things, you ask? Blob kinds of things. Living at such high pressures means that being a regular fish isn't an option. Most fish have a gas bladder that they can use to maintain their buoyancy and how to not sink to the bottom of the ocean or float to the top. But when you live at 120 atmospheres, a gas bladder would just explode. It would collapse on itself and not be very effective and just kill you, actually. When a gas bladder collapses, it often pushes all of the fish's insides outside. So you can't have one of those if you live that far down. So instead, the blobfish is made the body of the blobfish is made of a gelatinous material that is slightly less dense than the water around it. So rather than having a skeleton in the regular sense, I mean, it does have a skeleton. The bones are very soft, which is why it technically falls into the category of bony fish, actinopterygii. And technically, yes, has a spine. It's not like your normal rigid bones, because bones would just crack under the pressure. But instead of using a skeleton for structural support, it uses water, the water on the inside of it and the outside of it, to create an equilibrium that maintains its structure. So all of this pressure keeps the blobfish together. And like you said, because of this, it can just hover over the ocean floor, and it doesn't even have to swim. It doesn't really have any muscle, so it kind of is important to not have to swim. It just sits there thinking rock thoughts, and eventually something makes its way into its mouth. So this is not an active participant in the world. But the side effect of having this kind of body is that while the water pressure keeps its jello body looking trim and slim like a normal fish, not having that pressure means that the blobfish physically and mentally has a meltdown at 1 atmosphere when it's brought up to the surface, making him look like a frumpy Jim Henson Muppet. But, so needless to say, most of the pictures of blobfish that you see are of dead blobfish that have melt-ploded. But if there are pictures and videos of blobfish or blobsculpin, which is a related species, in their natural habitat, which is at the bottom of the ocean. And it doesn't look like a regular fish, but it looks like kind of a smallish anglerfish. It's not really, it's nothing to write home about. It has a dorsal fin. It has a big wide face, but definitely doesn't look like the blobfish we've all come to know and, I guess, hate.
Love and hate. Love to levy against people we hate.
Love to hate.
But also have plushies of in our homes.
Or Slenderman masks of.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. On the flip side, this jelly body allows it to live and look like a regular fish in a place that would turn you into a point of singularity with the pressure. So it's basically you wouldn't be looking too hot if you were in his habitat, and he's not looking too hot in yours. So all of this negativity levied at the blobfish is unwarranted, because it's basically like if you took any animal and mashed it up, it would look horrifying. So, and took any animal and changed its pressure by 120 times, yeah, it would look horrifying. That's the end of that story. So be nice to the blobfish because it's dead. If you're looking at the ugly version, and if you see one in its natural habitat, you're dead. So, or you're in a remote submarine. Or you're piloting a remote submarine to the bottom of the ocean. And that's it. That's all I got.
That's all I got.
Those are the false frumps of the blobfish. So, for you out there in Podcastia, stay at your depth, keep your insides together, and have a cold bath like the blobfish here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey LDT listeners, thanks for listening to the end of the episode. For your loyalty, you get a shameless self-promotion from us. If you haven't already, leaving a review on your favorite podcast app can really help us grow. But telling your podcast-loving friends about us is even better. Also, don't forget to send in your Measure Up intros and animal suggestions to ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. As always, thanks, most of all, for listening.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
Have yourself a really cold bath.